First, I thought we would just welcome everyone and want to make sure that you can see my screen. You should be able to see the RPR slide and a picture of me with my contact information. You are more than welcome to reach out to me after the webinar if you have any questions. And also, hopefully, that you can hear me okay. If you'd like to type in the chat box where you are watching and listening from, and maybe tell us what the weather's like, I'll know that I'm broadcasting loud and clear. I'm in Missouri, and from Missouri, I'm on the road traveling, so I'm in Jefferson City, Missouri, and it's a cloudy and a little cool here. It was very nice yesterday, and it was very warm and very it was wonderful. So I'm going to kind of go out and see where folks are from. John wanted to know if it starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time. No, John, it's that it will be 2 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you for your question. Bruce says it's rainy and he's from Portland. Welcome, Bruce. Nancy's in Phoenix. It's supposed to be 90 there today. Okay, Nancy, we're all going to just stop the class right now and go to Phoenix, and we'll do an outside RPR class. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? Thank you, Nancy. Chris is in Des Moines. He's just north of me, a few hours, not too far from Jefferson City, Missouri. But Chris says it's 23 degrees there, and I think there's snow actually, Chris. It was supposed to come through here, but I think it went north. So Chris might even have some snow. It's overcast, he says. Bessie's in Houston, Texas, and it is cloudy and 70. Let's see here. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Is it Lona or Luina's in Arlington, 64 degrees. I always have to say they took phonics out of school when I was a kid, and I have been forever taunted. Ann is in Kearney, Missouri. Ann, I guess you're close to me. Trying to remember where Kearney's at. Cool and sunny. I think that's up by St. Joseph, up in that area. In fact, I know it is because I have a good friend from Kearney. I thought that looked familiar. Lots of folks out there. Thank you, Dave. Is in Idaho. Beautiful state. If you've never been to Idaho, you must put that on your to-do list. John's in Boston, and Doug's in San Jose. Lots of folks. If I didn't mention your city, I am sorry. I always think of when I was a kid growing up and they had romper room, and the teacher would always say she saw Johnny and Bobby and Susie, and I would get so excited when she saw Johnny because I was Johnny. But thank you so much for all of the comments there. I appreciate it. We have over 800, close to 1,000 people who have signed up for the webinar. And if you have any questions, you now know how to ask a question. My good friend Valerie from RPR will be monitoring the chat box, the chat room, and she'll be answering questions for you. So hopefully we'll be able to get those questions answered. Again, you will be able to send me an email or call me. I'm here after the class. I want you to know that. I want to help you in any way I can. So we're going to get started. I think I have right at 1 o'clock my time here in the central part of the United States. Well, let me just tell you, my name is John Mayfield. I am a real estate broker. I've written a couple of real estate books. Maybe you have one of those, maybe you don't. I do a lot of speaking. I'm kind of really more of a full-time speaker and trainer, but I still have a broker's license. I'm still in the trenches, and I love RPR. I mean, it is a great product, and I'm a technology nut anyway, so it's a great product, and I'm excited to share with you some of the really cool things about RPR today. So this class is going to cover what is RPR, how to use RPR with buyers and sellers. I'll show you how to generate some reports. We'll kind of look at how you can navigate around on the home screen, customize your profile, and where you can get help, because that's always important, isn't it? Well, RPR, the first question I always get from live classes and from people is, what is RPR? I mean, that's a good question. What is it, and why do we really even have RPR? Well, RPR is owned by the National Association of Realtors. You and I are members of the National Association of Realtors, so we have a stakeholder in RPR. It's a wholly owned subsidiary corporation through NAR. And it's a database with a lot of information in it. We talk about big data. In fact, I'm in Jefferson City, Missouri because I'm teaching a CE class, a couple of CE classes tomorrow, and one of them is on big data. And it's just a huge thing today. We're collecting lots of data. There's data out there. Well, RPR has over 166 million US parcels of property inside the database. It's actually growing even bigger than that. It's exclusively for you and I as realtors. So the public has no access to this. There's no consumer public access. And it's delivered through a very innovative, cutting edge application. Now, what do we mean by that? We mean, first of all, that there's lots of different pieces of data that are being aggregated and dropped into the database of RPR. A good example of that is you want to know school information about a specific zip code or a school, it's in RPR. You want to be able to have a central place to go to get taxes, many cases, mortgage loan documents. All of that information is in RPR. In fact, in some of the counties where you're located right now, if there's an attorney who begins the foreclosure process on a property in your county today at your county courthouse, if they go file that paperwork today, odds are pretty good that that information will be available tomorrow in RPR. If not tomorrow, very, very quickly, depending on how quick the feed is. And in many cases that I've seen, it's literally the next day. So we have this cutting edge application with all of these different pieces of data that's being put into RPR. You want to know how many people vote Republican and how many people vote Democrat in your zip code? It's in RPR. Now, some of you may be saying, well, why do we need to know all of that information, John? Well, I'll hopefully be able to paint that picture and present the argument and the case on why that's important for you and I as real estate professionals. But if you and I tried to go out around the internet to get all of that information, it would literally take us hours upon hours. RPR has now gone out, grabbed that data or made arrangements to get the data and bring it right into one central database where you have immediate access to it. Very, very fascinating, and it's very helpful for you and I as we go out to do business as real estate professionals. Now, again, I'm in the trenches and I'm working with people who buyers and sellers, and I use RPR all the time. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I train and do the teaching for RPR is because I believe in the product and I like the product. I have plenty of other teaching opportunities and obligations, but I love to teach and I love to help my colleagues learn about a tool that can help them grow their businesses. So there's no additional charge. We've got tons of data, lots of parcels of properties, and it's a really interesting tool that we're going to be able to use in our database. Now, very quickly, just to remind you what RPR is not, okay? It's not an MLS. So just wipe that off the table right now. RPR would not exist without the MLS data. We have to get our data for RPR from somewhere, so it's not an MLS. It's not a consumer-facing business model. So you are not going to, the RPR's data is not available for any of the public to go and begin trying to do some searching, okay? It's only available to you and I as members of the National Association of Realtors. And it is not a listing syndicator or redistributor of information, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. It's not any of those items. So how can we use RPR? Well, we can research property. Boy, if you haven't downloaded the mobile application, I'm telling you what, It's my favorite app on my phone, and I use it every day as a real estate professional. But I can also use it. I use the mobile app. I mean, it's my research buddy, because if I'm in front of a vacant house or that has no sign out front, I want to find out who owns it, what's the mailing address, can I get in touch with these people? With RPR, I've got immediate access to that information. So we can use it as a research tool. More importantly, we can use it to accurately price property. I'm going to show you some things that you can use RPR for with farming and prospecting, because there are some really cool things you can do to farm and prospect with RPR. And the next bullet point says to impress buyers and sellers with RPR, or to stand out on a listing presentation or at an open house. I love to tell this story, and I'll be brief with it because I think it's very important for you to understand why RPR works for me and why I am such a fan of RPR. I probably closed in the last couple of years, I don't know, 6 or 7 transactions that, if you would believe me and trust me, I know without a doubt I would have not closed those transactions had it not been for RPR. And by the way, I've been practicing real estate since the age of 18 in 1978. So some of you can do the math, but I've been in the business 37 years. I've owned 3 offices. I've had lots of people that have worked for me. I'm still in the business today. I sold my company a few years ago, and because of my speaking and travel uh, um, situation. But what I want you to understand is this. I'm telling you that because I know without a doubt, if I had been relying on my MLS information, I don't think I could have gotten the job done on 6 or 7 properties that I closed. But with RPR, for some reason, I was able to close these transactions. And I'm thinking about this and I'm wondering, why is RPR so much more beneficial, or has played a role in helping me convince buyers and sellers about property prices and getting listings and closing deals? And so I'm listening to this MP3. I love to listen to audiobooks and motivational tapes when I'm driving, listening to a particular interview with a very famous online marketer. His name's Joe Polish. You can Google his name. He's a very interesting gentleman, his life. And so Joe's asked the question during this interview, and one of his responses to the gentleman giving the interview is, did you know there's really only one difference between a dollar bill and $100 bill? And that caught my attention. I'm thinking, what is that? There's only one difference between a dollar bill and $100 bill? And Joe said, it's the message. Now think about that for a moment. I was immediately awoken, or I immediately realized, now I know why RPR works for me. It allows me to deliver a $100 bill message. See, my MLS, a few pieces of paper or the reports that I would generate from my MLS, they're very good, but they don't tell the story. They don't deliver the message that RPR delivers. When I show you a report that's 84 pages long, that's a message that resonates with buyers and sellers, and it helps convince them of a lot of items that you and I are trying to show to them. So it's a great way for all of these items to stand out on a listing presentation, to impress buyers and sellers, and much, much more. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I normally do. It's an AVM and an RVM. And what you need, most of you already know about AVMs. It's an automated valuation model. It's an algorithm where the computer says, based on the data we have about a specific piece of property, we think the property's worth X number of dollars. Consumers see this out at various public portals. I've shown property where buyers have asked me, how come this house is only worth so much on such and such website? And because of automated valuation models and the data that's out there and the um, popularity of automated valuation models, the National Association of Realtors really believed and felt, and I'm glad they did, that we needed to take an active role in this area, and we needed to develop what is called the Realtors Valuation Model. Now, what's the difference between the two? The AVM, the top one that you're looking at, which most public portals use when they go out and put a price online, is only available to those companies with public data. In other words, most of those companies only have access to public information. And in Missouri, we're a non-disclosure state. So we don't report what happens to the local courthouse, which means a lot of the AVMs may not be very accurate. Well, with the realtor's valuation model, we not only get to use the public information, the same information the other folks use, but we can use the information from the multiple listing service. And now by using public data and MLS data, we can actually provide a much more accurate and better valuation through an automated valuation. And so we call it the Realtor's Valuation Model. And as we go through some of the examples, I'm going to show you some RVMs. And it basically just means this is what the computer thinks this property is possibly worth based on the data it has from public data and MLS data. So a lot of times if people ask you, hey, we saw this property on a website and they gave us an estimate, is that estimate that I'm looking at very accurate? And the answer is it depends, right? It could be, but in a lot of cases it may not be. So we're going to talk about automated valuation models and realtor valuation models, and it's all part of this big data. And I'm going to show you how you can use this as a real estate professional. So let's get started. Enough of the PowerPoint. We'll get that closed out. Remember, if you have any questions, be sure and type that in. Valerie will try to answer that, and we'll go through all of this. Now, I like to go at a not a real fast pace because I remember in college algebra, I crammed 4 years of college into 5. That usually gets a good laugh in the live classroom, but that's a true story. I I I I used 5 years to get through college, but I made it and graduated, and now I have a master's degree in real estate. But I sometimes the teachers would go a little quick, so I want to go at a decent pace. If I'm going too slow, my apologies. Probably the basic course isn't for you, but we'll try to also go at a decent enough pace for everybody. I'm logged into RPR. First thing I want to point out right here is my logo right up here. This is free of charge. And if you are seeing your MLS logo right up here, we can get that fixed for your company, and there's no charge for that, so don't worry about that. You definitely want to brand this with your company because a lot of times I take RPR, I take my computer out and I load up RPR and I'm using the hotspot on my phone and I'm going through the computations with my customers and soon-to-be clients right at their property. So we want to make sure that's branded with your company and it's flying your logo and your colors because that'll help you a lot. Second thing I want to point out to you is down over here, you're going to notice there's a little gear icon over there. And somewhere over in this area, I've got my control panel up, but it's somewhere over in here, there's a little gear icon. And that's where you're going to go in to set up your profile. So if I selected the little gear icon right here, it's going to bring me over where I can add my photo. I can upload my logo here. That will not affect the big logo, but I can still make sure that's uploaded here. You want to verify and make sure all the information from your MLS is correct, because these are going to generate on your reports. I know, unfortunately, we have a few folks in our MLS, and I'm sure you don't have that problem, but we have some agents that want to hide their cell phone number, and they kind of want to disguise that they're in the real estate business, and they don't have a lot of that information in the MLS very accurate, or it's not too accurate. And then when you go to write a contract, it's difficult to track those people down. Make sure all of that's correct. Log into your MLS down here with your user ID, and then you should be good to go, and should be able to begin and start using RPR. If you have difficulty or problems, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. And right down here, you will notice there is a live chat support and an 800 number right here. These folks are very good. I was doing a live class the other day, and one of the gentlemen in the class said, "Hey, I've called them. They are very helpful. They're so nice, and it's well worth calling them if you have any questions." So don't forget, if you have trouble getting your profile or any of this information, you've got this ability to either chat or call them on the 800 number. They are there 24/7, 365 days a year, and they're located right in Omaha, Nebraska. So a good group of folks, and you can contact them right there. So let's start looking at RPR and how you're going to use it as a real estate professional. Take a look here. We can save searches, and that's going to play a big role for us. So we're going to save some searches. And this is where we're going to do the bulk of our work, right in here. In fact, I probably should circle this whole dashboard bar here, because this is where I do the bulk of my work in RPR right there. You're going to be able to search for all properties, or you can search for sale. I can search neighborhoods, and I've been doing interesting things there. You want to search a school district right there. Remember talking about farming an area? Did you know we could go into a subdivision? We can draw around that subdivision. We can save that in our save searches over here. And then we can generate monthly activity reports for that subdivision and farm that area. We can put those reports on our website. We could do some green screen stuff. We can send postcards to the people in the neighborhood and say, "Hey, your monthly information's ready for the subdivision," and drive traffic to our website, win new listings, and really become the expert for that subdivision. So you're going to want to really look at this market activity report, because I'm telling you, it rocks, and there's some really cool things you can do there. So let's start right here on these first two tabs, all properties and for sale. Now, this may not be the most, how should I say that? This is how I like to, let me phrase it that way. This is how I like for you to understand the difference between these two tabs. If I'm going to search all properties, I'm really searching the county courthouse. Okay. If I'm searching the MLS, I want to select for sale. Good example. This last year, I had some friends who called me. They wanted me to list a property. It was for their mom and dad. I knew their parents. I grew up down the street from their parents. I was born in 1960. My parents moved in our home in 1968. These folks lived down the street long before we got there in 1968. In fact, they moved in that home in 1954, I found out. Never, ever, ever, ever put their house on the real estate market. They're part of that era that moved in a home, raised their kids, stayed in the home until they were ready to go to a nursing home or passed away. In fact, that's what happened to the father of the family. He passed away, and so the mother went into a nursing home. The boys wanted me to sell the house, and I immediately went to RPR because I use RPR 99.9% of the time when I'm doing CMAs today. I just do. I love it. And I knew this property had never been for sale in our MLS. So there's nothing I can get on that property from the MLS. I can get comps and find a little bit about the market, but I can't find details about that property from our MLS because it was never in our MLS. So I log into RPR, narrpr.com. I always forget to tell you that at the beginning. There's somebody out there that was saying, so how do we get to the website? narrpr.com. Thank you for thinking about that. So narrpr.com. So I'm going to list this property. I go to all properties. Why? Because when I search all properties, I'm searching the courthouse, really, in essence. And I type in the street address. I'm just going to type in my address. And so you get the picture. So I just type that in. I hit the search button, and RPR brought up that property that the boys wanted me to sell. The friends I knew and grew up down the street from. I think I even cut their grass as a young boy. It brought up that property with all of the details and information I needed for that listing, and RPR even suggested a list price. Pretty cool. Now, I've got some work to do on that list price. I can't take that as being the exact market value because I need to use my experience and my knowledge of the marketplace. And I like to remind people about this. You know, when we're searching and we're coming up with information and values, keep in mind this is a computer, okay? The computer doesn't know if this side of the street is a specific school district that sells better than this side of the street. Now we're going to an era where it will know that kind of information. The computer doesn't know if the house has been remodeled and updated. We're going to an era where that will happen. When you watch some of the big data videos that I watch, when you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or your favorite home store, you know, a local lumber yard, and you buy a new shower stall, that gets recorded in a computer database somewhere that's being shared. When you then put that in your car and the GPS on your phone tracks you from that hardware store back to your home, someday, somewhere, and it's probably already being done, somebody's going to take that data and make the assumption you've remodeled a bathroom and calculate that into the automated valuation of your home. We're not that far from that type of activity happening. And that's called, there's a name for that, but on building modeling and so forth. But I just want you to understand that this is where we're at. That's what's going on. So I'm going to close this out. And I want to remind you, this is a computer. Now, let's take a look at how we can search. I already told you can search by address. Did you know you can search by zip code? And watch what happens when I add a few zip code numbers in. It defaults and allows me to choose from that. If I'm typing in Phoenix, I can type in PH and look what happens. Now I add O and it says, yes, I want Phoenix, Arizona, or perhaps Phoenix, Illinois. So I can search by address. I can search by city. I can search by zip code. I can even search by county. So as I type in just a few letters, you can see that I'm starting to auto-populate counties that we could search by. So lots of great features. The other day I was with some folks and one of the agents said, I can't find this property and I'm having difficulty. And it was a rural property. So look at this. We have the advanced tab. And I said, let's try this. So we selected the Advanced tab, and we actually went to All Properties. Okay. So we went to All Properties. We went to All Properties. We went to Advanced. Here, I typed in her name, and it was still there, and her address. We had the address up here, and her name here, and we did the search, and her property came right up. You can also do that with a parcel number. But what I want you to understand is sometimes you might search for a property and may not find it. Default to going to All Properties, type the address in, and then go to the advanced search and put the owner's name in, and you might elevate or raise the chances of you being able to find that property. So you have a basic search, which I use most of the time. If you want to change a valuation, you can, or bedrooms and bath. We can also search by advanced here. So if I just want to search for distressed properties, I uncheck non-distressed, and look what happens. I can now search for pre-foreclosures in a specific marketplace. I could even search for distressed and condos. So if I'm in a market where maybe I'm just trying to find a pre-foreclosure condo, I could do that. Or if I'm trying to find farms and ranches, I could search for that. All of that is available under the Advanced tab right there. So I did a search, and in Phoenix, Arizona, I came up with 7,418 properties. Notice on the left-hand side over here, right over here, I can actually make changes on the fly over here as well. So if I want to search, if I don't want pendings to show up, and I do not want foreclosures to show up, I can uncheck those and select apply, and right on the fly, everything gets re-updated. I can also come up to this specific tab, and I could say, I'd like to sort these by least expensive or most expensive. There's some other options to sort by that, I'll be honest with you, I probably never use because I'm not interested in sorting by bedrooms and baths, but you have the ability to do that. You might sort by living area, but I like to sort by most expensive, least expensive. I really like to see the most recently updated searches on this first page. And if I want to have more properties on one page, I can do that by changing that show button. As I scroll down through, I want to point out one thing right over here that you can see is that everything's color coordinated in RPR. So as you begin to see properties through here, this is a pre-foreclosure, it's a darker red, and it's a pending distressed. And my computer just updated, which is fine. But so light blue is for sale. So whatever choices you have on the search results, over here under the map, you will have a description that matches or correlates with the color. It just helps you be able to determine a little bit easier what properties are. Now, as I scroll on down, I can get more information about the neighborhood. If I select more information about the neighborhood, all of a sudden, I now have the ability to look at data about that specific zip code or county or area that I've drilled down to. So I have summary information right there. I can come over here and look at housing information. By the way, I use a little program called TechSmith. TechSmith makes a little program called Snagit. A lot of you have Facebook business pages. I do, and we all do. And you're kind of wondering, what can I put on my Facebook business page? Well, with Snagit, I can actually go out and snag a picture of this. Now, you want to make sure that you give a reference to where you're getting this information. And so you want to definitely quote that this came from the Realtors Property Resource Network. You want to show that the how you got the information and everything within RPR, so I can take a picture of this and then I could share that. So if I snap a photo of that, I can go right up here to share and Snagit, send it to Twitter or Facebook, and again give the appropriate credit to RPR, because everything has a footnote. So right here I can put from RPR, I can copy this and now I have my footnote for the chart that I've taken. So you got lots of information. Everything's footnoted, shows you where it comes from. I have tons of school information on the right. That's just the second tab. We've been on summary and housing. We still have a people tab. Remember I said you want to know how many people vote Democrat or Republican? There's the information down at the bottom of the page. About this data, where did they get that? It's all footnoted. So I've got information about the people, the economy, the quality of life, and somebody out there is probably saying, why do I need all that data? Because if somebody's relocating to your community, wouldn't it be nice to send them a report? I can just go up to reports and I can go down here to neighborhood and look at this. I can email this report to someone who's relocating to my area. I could also save this report. Now I have access to it on my smartphone, which means when I'm out in the field and somebody asks me how the market's doing, I can say, it's doing pretty good. In fact, I got a really cool report I could share with you if you'd like. Pull my smartphone out, send the report to them, and what do they now think about you as a real estate professional? That's right. You're the person that's got the information, that you become the expert in their eyes. In fact, look what I did. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a ton of listings because I'm doing a lot of speaking and training, and I do a lot of work in Nice, France. In fact, a lot of times when I'm doing these webinars, I'm broadcasting from France. I'm leaving in just a couple of days for France, but I created a page on my website called Our Communities. And if you go to one of the communities, I actually took the RPR neighborhood reports and I select the view, and now you can see that I've created a digital magazine using that RPR report. You can see, I didn't have to type anything. RPR created it, and I can now go out and share this on Facebook or Twitter. I can embed it on my website. I can embed it in an email. Want to know how the market's doing in our area? And it's all right there. So I've created those for all of mine, and I've put those on my website so that I can drive traffic to my website and show people what's going on in my community. And again, I'm trying to make myself the go-to person for real estate in my community. So I'm going to go back over here to the properties, and I'm going to pick out a property, and it's 1348 West Wayne Court. Here's the property we have. We're going to go through some of the information on this. And one of the things that we're going to look at, first of all, is right in the middle of the page here. Now, again, this is a property that's for sale. Went on the market November 22nd. Might be a good indicator here. Now, keep this in mind. Remember, I talked about the message. And this property now has been on the market January or December, January, February, 3.5 months. Well, it's listed for $525, but look at the RVM. Now, I know some of you are like me from college algebra. Remember, I crammed 4 years of college into 5. And yes, I took college algebra. That was a requirement to graduate my senior year, spring semester. I wrote an essay on why she needed to give me a D minus. I made a C plus. I guess that's why I like to write. I just didn't get math a lot in college. I get it today. I like math, but a lot of times the teacher would go over things and I didn't ask her, well, what did that mean? Well, there's a couple of cool things here, and that's why I want to go back over this, because somebody's probably saying, what in the heck is the RVM? I already forgot. It's a realtor's valuation model. It's a computerized value of what the property may be worth based from the computer's data, but it's using public data and our MLS. So it's a much more accurate number. In fact, and I'm just saying this as a side note, in my experience and my board, because I still keep track of what's going on, this RVM about 90% of the time, 85, 90% of the time is right in the ballpark of what I think that property that I'm looking at should be priced at. But I still have some work to do. I still need to do some work on this. But let's look at a couple of things. First of all, there's a little I right next to the RVM. If you ever forget what anything means, our RPR's just made it really easy to have a cheat sheet. So you can click on the I and now you know what the RVM is. So if you want to find out something, it's very easy to do. If you come down to any kind of a map or a statistic, it's all footnoted, as I've mentioned to you. So you've got that built-in RPR throughout. But we've got an RVM here of $507,210. We also have a 5-star confidence, which means the computer's saying, I feel pretty good about 507,000. I could be off, but I think that's going to be in the ballpark, giving it a 5-star confidence. We've got to remember it's a computer. Computer's never been inside the house, doesn't know if they've got dogs and cats galore, doesn't know if they've totally remodeled and enhanced the property with lots of updates. That's going to be our job. So the first thing I like to do is select view details right here, right under the RVM. And this is just going to give me a little insight into some of the comps that the RVM used. So yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, I see some comps there. I could get in and dig around on this a little bit, and we're going to, and say, you know what? I don't know why the computer used that comp, because that neighborhood's totally different. Remember, we've got a street here. In my area, I was doing a CMA over here. This is John David subdivision. There's another subdivision on the other side of the highway called Farmington Meadows. Well, now, you don't compare properties from both of these subdivisions. So I'm over here doing a CMA, and some of the comps, a couple that it used, were over here in Farmington Meadows. So I want to immediately get those out of the mix, and we're going to be able to do that. We're going to use our experience and our knowledge to fine-tune this. But I wanted to show you that this gives me some good insight about what was used. Now, the next thing I like to do is I like to look a little bit about what's going on in the marketplace. And we can see this market values are up about 5, almost 6% over the last 12 months. But in the last month, looks like there's been a slowdown, so that a little bit of a drop there. I like to look at that, and I like to come over here and I like to click on bigger map. So I'm going to select the bigger map, and right here, and we're going to come down and begin to look at the neighborhood. Now I'm going to zoom out my screen so you can see this a little better. And here's my subject property right here. As I look around this neighborhood, I can see that there's a house for sale right here. There's a property that sold right here. I have information about the next door neighbors. I can see another house that's for sale down here. And if I want to zoom out just a little bit more, I'll begin to get more activity and more information about properties in and around my subject property, which is right here. If I want to look at this from a Google overhead view, you just click the aerial view and you have that opportunity. Now, look at this for a minute. See, I grew up in an age where we started without an MLS, and then we went to a 3-ring binder, and we shared information among. I mean, we drove across town and dropped off pamphlets, and then we went to a 3-ring binder, to a bound book, to a computer that dialed in and squealed and honked and all that stuff. And you hoped that there was an open line that you could just get access to the MLS. And today, we literally can go out on a listing appointment with RPR, click on the map, and we can see everything that's going on in the neighborhood. In fact, it's probably not too far off that as data gets in there, I can click on this property and actually not only get all the details, but maybe watch a video from the listing agent who gives me more insight about the property and how the condition of the house. It's probably not that far off. So you have a tool here that if you're not using to help you show what's going on in the neighborhood, you need to be doing that. Sometimes I'll be going to look at a property, and somebody will say, well, yeah, but our neighbors sold their house down the street, and we heard they sold it for 510,000, and our house is a lot nicer than that. Well, here it's at 525. If we go down the street, I can immediately see that just catty corner from that, this house sold for 395. So I've got that ability to look at what's going on in the neighborhood. Now, remember earlier when I was talking about market activity report, and let's just say we've got somebody out there who says, uh, I like to farm a subdivision, and this is my little subdivision right here. I want to own that subdivision, and if anything goes up for sale in that subdivision, I want it to be mine. Well, I want you to go up here. You have some options to draw a box or a radius. I'm going to do a polygon, and just very quickly, for time's sake, I'm going to act like I painstakingly drew a map around that subdivision, and now I'm going to save the name of that subdivision, and I'm going to call it RPR Estates, and select and say OK. Now again, with the polygon map, you can put the points and go all around that neighborhood so it looks so you're encompassing the entire neighborhood. Now I'm going to go back here to the home screen. And remember the saved feature? We've got lots of options here. I've got saved properties, saved searches. I've even got saved custom areas. And if I go to RPR Estates and I go to create a report, it's searching what's going on inside my farm area. I go to create a report. It defaults to market activity. I select more details. I select past month. I can change dates, but I just want to post this on my website once a month. I really don't want my folks to see expired listings and open houses, so I'll uncheck that. I'll run the report, and now when this report is finished, I'm going to put that on my website on a page called RPR Estates, and I'm going to try to gather email addresses for that subdivision. If not, I'm going to send postcards, and I'm going to tell folks that, hey, it's March 1st. It is March 1st today, isn't it? It's March 1st, and I've run the latest report for your subdivision. It's now available online at mayfieldre.com/RPR Estates. And when they go to that landing page, I've maybe done a green screen video where I say, thanks for coming by my website. I've just updated the local statistical information for your subdivision, RPR Estates. You can download the report right below. And don't forget, if you're thinking about buying or selling, remember John Mayfield. I'd love to help you out. And you're becoming the expert. And RPR's created this really cool resources tool to make you look like a winner and a knowledgeable expert for that subdivision that nobody else is doing. And that's how you will own and get listings in that subdivision. So I'm going to go back over to that property that we were on. We were on the summary page right here. This is the property on Wayne Court. We were on the bigger map. Tons of things you can do there. By the way, very quickly, just so I can show you, if I select the bigger map, go back here. Well, I wanted to click on there we go. I can go right below the bigger map, select heat map, and I can do a 12-month change in value, and now I can see what's happening in the marketplace. It tells me if it's lighter blue or darker blue, the market value is going up. If it's in red, property values are going down. And that's been a good visual tool. I had a lady one time. You may not have sellers like this in your marketplace. Or let me just ask you, do you have sellers who get upset when you give them a price of what their properties might be worth? Okay, I thought you probably did. I had a lady that got pretty upset with me once because she couldn't understand why her house went down in value over 12 months. When I showed her this map and her house was in the middle of red, dark red, she understood that it was the whole marketplace was going down. So you have that information. Everything's footnoted. You even have the ability to look at floodplains. This property's not too far from a flood zone. Where did they get that data? It's all right here under the About tab. It's from FEMA. There's several other options for heat maps. And again, it helps you tell the message that your MLS probably couldn't do. So now I have basic information about the property. I have photos. I have the listing agent information to get in touch with. I can add notes to my report. I can even compare historical information from the MLS. Here's the property today with the list price. Here's the property back in 2008. It was listed for $399 and it sold for $370. So anytime it's been in your MLS, that historical information will be right there, and you can compare that and lay it side by side. So I'll close this tab. We'll go on down. Lots of statistical information about your state, your county, and your city, or where you're searching, the zip code. I have home facts, public facts from the courthouse, information from the MLS. And if I find something different, I can record that right here in my RPR. Now, if I'm making changes about this property in my RPR, it's not going to show up on anyone else's RPR. It's not going to change the data in RPR. These are just changes that will affect my RPR, my database. But I have that ability to do that. I love to include notes here because I'm a visual person and I use an iPad when I'm going over my presentation, and I like to highlight and circle things and to draw my point to really help the sellers understand maybe some points I want to bring up. This little chart right here, I use it all the time. And here's my secret. There's 4 boxes that are checked here. You have the subject property, the zip code, the county, and the state. Well, I care about what's going on in the state and I care about what's going on in the county, but when I'm doing a CMA, I really want my customer, soon to be client, to really understand where their house is positioned in the marketplace. And this is a very good example that I would want the seller to see and understand that they are right here, $500,000 in the marketplace, and the median sales price in my zip code is just under 300,000 or right around 300. And they need to understand that anytime you're up here at the high end of the market, I may not get the opportunity to show the house a lot. They also need to understand that if we get an offer, they need to really look at that offer hard and try to make it work because we're at the high end of the marketplace. So I use this map a lot, or this chart a lot, to help me tell my story. If I'm working with a buyer in this example, I want my buyer, I have a fiduciary obligation to that buyer. It's part of my professionalism as a real estate professional to let that buyer know they're buying in and at the high end of the market. That does not mean that that house would never sell, but if they come back to me in 12 months because of a relocation or they have to resell, I want them to understand what I might be up against. So this is a good chart. Helps me tell a lot of stories. Remember, we can do more about the neighborhood. We've already looked at that. And look at this. Great school information. Remember I said there's like over 350 pieces of data spread out across the internet that would take you hours upon hours to go try to look up. RPR goes and gets that information and brings it here. So if you've got a customer or a client and they want to know more about this specific school, elementary school, you can get that information for them in just a click of a mouse. So school information, I can see price change history from the MLS. I can see distressed information back in 2009 when the market went south in Arizona. This was a part of a foreclosure. I can see interior, exterior features. I've got location details. In many areas, I can even download the plat. I've got a walkability score, directions to the property. Here's my legal description. Look at this. I can download the plat to this house right here. So I select that and immediately we can get the plat for that property. Now that's not in every RPR area, but it's coming and you'll probably see that in some time. Mortgage records right there. I didn't have this kind of access until we got RPR a couple of years ago. Boy, does that help you going into a listing presentation to know what if the sellers might be upside down or not. Now I had a lady the other day. She's like, I don't like that. That to me, that's not very. That should be private. And I said to her, I said, you got to remember that's public information. Now you can choose in the reports to exclude that, but it is available in RPR. So it's right there, all the mortgage information, all the tax information, and that is all on the first tab. Now let's go to the history tab. Tons of historical information. I can go to the MLS, find past MLS data. I did this the other day was doing some work for some folks, and it was easier for me to get the past MLS records right here than through my MLS. So I have that. I can go back and look at past tax information, past mortgage information, distressed information, and so forth. And now I go over to the next tab, charts. We won't go over all of that, but there's plenty of facts and figures to help you tell your what? Your message. And if you get nothing else out of today, I want you to ask yourself, what kind of message am I delivering to the customer? And I want you to deliver a $100 bill message, and you can do that with RPR. Now, we've got 5 minutes. We've gone over just about everything, but I want to show you this real quickly because remember, we've got an RVM. We want to actually get in and fine-tune the price, and I just want to show you a couple of quick things here. We can allow and add 4 adjustments. The other day, I was doing a CMA. Some folks did a bathroom remodel. They did this in May of 2015. They spent $4,000. I selected add, and RPR does all the calculations right up there, $2,546. You can now have this conversation, and you can include any new improvements they've done. Sellers will love you for that. You can also make adjustments for the market condition. So if your market's pretty hot, move that bar up. RPR is going to do changes for you. If the home needs some work on the outside, this is where you get to add your experience and your knowledge. And RPR does the calculations. Now, We've made our adjustments based on our knowledge of the marketplace and our visual inspection of the house and talking to the sellers about what they've done to the property. And we're just going to go to this last tab called Comp Analysis. We're going to now select Confirm Facts. It's 5 quick steps, and I'll show you how quickly we can do this. We'll confirm the facts. We'll find the comps. Just leave this alone. You can always make changes, but you really want to leave it alone because it's going to be more in tune to what an appraiser might be looking for. And look at all the comps we get. And now I just go through, and with my knowledge and my experience of the marketplace, I choose the comps. And I can say, see if it has a star, it was used in the RVM, and I could say, I'm not crazy about that subdivision. I don't think it really lines up. I don't have to choose that. So now I'm making my decisions and my choices based on my knowledge of the marketplace, picking out comps that I like that are close by, and I go all the way, and I can even include some for sale properties if I want. I can include some pendings because those will show up, and I go all the way to the bottom and I select update valuation and close. You're going to painstakingly do this. Now I adjust the comps, and I like to make the pictures bigger, and I look at this home and I say, I've shown that property. It's not as nice as the house I'm looking at. I've shown this property. That's pretty nice. In fact, that's really a nice home. This house is almost identical to the one I'm doing the CMA on. I'm going to put that in the first position. And now I can come down here, include a few notes if I know information about those properties, update the valuation and close, and I have my price. If I want to manually input my data, I can do that. I print the report, and it's 85 pages, sometimes, somewhere in there. And am I saying print that on paper? No. And don't email it to them. Just save it on your computer or save it in Dropbox and take your iPad out and go over this with the owners at their home and then email it from your smartphone. I'm telling you, it will deliver a $100 bill message every time. And look at this. All my recent property searches and reports are right here, and they will also, which is so cool, sync with my phone. So whenever I log into my phone, all of those reports are right there, recent reports. And so now I can just text or send that report in that manner. Remember, I can search for schools. There's tons of reports over here. You've got a really cool flyer report, and you can post that to Facebook now. The mini property report's good for open houses. The market activity report, again, you can find out what's going on in a farm area, post that. It's a great way to do a hot sheet for your zip code if you want to know what's going on in the last week, just to refresh your mind and memory. You've got a school report and so much more. Now, if you go down to the bottom as we wrap up here, there's a little button over here called blog. Don't forget your help is right there. Click away. If I select blog, it takes me out to where I can find more information. If you're a broker and you want to brand your company with your logo, this is where you want to go. Brokers, owners, and you want to set up the enrollment. We have tons of video learning. We have lots of frequently asked questions. We have an app for the iPad, and I went 1 minute over 12 o'clock, and so my apologies, but I hope that if anything, after watching this session of RPR, it will allow you to think about the type of message you're delivering. I'm telling you, it's a great program. Your customers and clients will love it. And I want you to know if you have any questions whatsoever. And by the way, I did record this So I've got the recording going right here. Let me throw my contact information up one more time. Please feel free to send me an email if you want a copy of the recording, or if you have any general questions, you're more than welcome to just reach out to me. Again, I just want to help you. I want to see you use RPR. It's a great program. You can go to businesstechguy.com and email me or contact me by telephone. And if you want a copy of the recording, that's available for you. You've been a great group. Everybody gets an A plus and bonus points. How about that? Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you go out and sell something today as well. Thanks again, and I will talk to you in the future, hopefully.